Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video for Culture and Identity, focusing on Marxism and Socialisation. Like functionalism, traditional Marxist views of socialisation are shaped by the fact that it is a structural theory and assumes that society shapes the behaviour of individuals, particularly through the process of socialisation and how social institutions play a role in passing on society's norms and values. However, unlike functionalism, Marxists are more critical of who the process of socialisation benefits. Whereas functionalists argue social institutions such as education, religion and the family pass on the norms and values of the value consensus of society, Marxists argue that the process of socialisation passes on the norms and values of the ruling class, and that these benefit those in society with control over the means of production. They are designed to stop the working class from questioning the unequal distribution of capital in society and prevent them from bonding together to revolt and overthrow capitalism. But how is this achieved? Once again, we look at the different forms of socialisation and how primary and secondary socialisation play a role in doing this. Marxists largely take a critical view of society, and this extends to the role of the family in passing on society's norms and values through primary socialisation. As an agent of primary socialisation, the family teaches children the norms and values of their particular family, which on the surface may seem to be beneficial. However, it also embeds the norms and values of wider society as well, teaching children the value of hard work, having a career, being obedient to authority, consuming goods, all norms and values of the dominant group in society, the ruling class. It further passes on false class consciousness to the next generation, not questioning the inequality in society and the idea that having particular goods means they are fortunate, leading to the next generation not questioning their exploitation. Furthermore, it creates false needs. Workers are led to believe that they must provide for their families, and the only way to do this is through selling their labour to the ruling class. It prevents workers from revolting, as they have responsibilities to provide, and so they will accept worse conditions, lower pay and exploitation as it is deemed necessary in order to support their families. This is further reinforced by agents of secondary socialisation. Marx argued that the control of society's cultural superstructure is held by those that control the economic infrastructure or the economic base. As the ruling class control the means of production, they have the power and influence to control what the norms and values of society are. Agencies of secondary socialisation such as education, religion and media all pass on the norms and values of the ruling class, and this influences the way in which people see society and how they act. For example, Bowles and Gintis argue that the education system passes on the norms and values of work through the correspondence principle, preparing children for the long shadow of work by replicating features of work in the education system to make the transition from education to work easier. This is done through teaching pupils to be docile and subservient workers, rather than critical thinkers who would challenge social inequality. Althusser also argues that education, as well as religion and media, act as an ideological state apparatus, a means of controlling the way in which the masses think, teaching them to accept the unequal nature of society and legitimising inequality. This reduces resistance to ruling class ideologies, as children will have been socialised into them from a very early age. However, not all Marxist thinkers assume that individuals will passively accept the norms and values of society and how they are passed on. Antonio Gramsci, a neo-Marxist who introduced the concept of humanistic Marxism, argued that the process of socialisation did not create false consciousness in all of the working class. Instead, argued that many individuals were aware of their exploitation but chose not to challenge this, either due to fatalistic attitudes or through acceptance of their own position as being somewhat privileged. Gramsci argued that social institutions did indeed pass on the hegemonic norms and values of the ruling class, but that a time would come whereby individuals would adopt a counter-hegemony, a set of norms and values that were in opposition to those put forward by the ruling classes. He suggested that as individuals became more educated, organic intellectuals would create this counter-hegemony, for example academics and church leaders, who would publicly question the dominant ideology and put forward their own version of norms and values. This can be seen in many different debates in contemporary society, with individuals arguing against government policy on issues as broad as immigration, the environment and economic policy. Whilst Gramsci agreed with Marx that the ruling class passed on norms and values, he rejected Marx's assertion that it created a false class consciousness, seeing this as deterministic and arguing that people developed a dual consciousness to their exploitation. In evaluating Marxist views of socialisation, it's important to see the differing positions within the Marxist tradition on the extent to which individuals blindly accept society's norms and values. Whilst traditional Marxists put forward the argument that individuals are controlled, neo-Marxists such as Willis and Gilroy put forward examples of cultures of resistance and subcultural responses to society's norms and values as evidence that people do not always conform. As with many other sociological issues, functionalists offer a more positive spin on Marxist ideas, suggesting that the norms and values that are put forward are not those of a specific group in society, but rather they are a reflection of the majority of those in society. A final criticism comes from postmodern or post-structural views that suggest that in contemporary society people's behaviours are more influenced by their chosen identity rather than social expectations. Furthermore, norms and values change rapidly and are often a result of individual choice rather than being dictated from a top-down position. There is too much diversity in society for individuals to conform to just one set of norms and values, according to postmodernists, whether these norms and values are a reflection of the ruling class or the majority of society. That concludes this Tutor to You sociology topic video on culture and identity, looking at Marxism and socialisation. Thanks for watching.